Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Testing Mini Bytes. I'm your friend Jdbi, and in this video, we're gonna see about how we could create or utilize this JDBA wrapper for your interaction with relational databases. I have seen a lot of code, particularly in test automation and Java development, that um, mostly in Java development, people leverage Spring Boot, and then it has an inbuilt capability to read and access data from your databases. But in case of test automation, we normally don't use Spring Boot because it's really not dependent for us. So our relation, if you want to interact with these databases, our code becomes very clumsy. Right, that's the reality. So JDBA is an excellent wrapper you could use to basically make your interaction with databases like Oracle, MySQL, and Postgres. Right, it's just a wrapper over JDBC, so it's not something new, but it has cleaner implementation and brilliant APIs that you could leverage, and it can, hugely impact the way how you could write your code. Right, so that's what it is. So you can see the GitHub; it is pretty actively developed, so you don't have to really worry about the credibility of this JDBA. And then it can be used to only interact with the relational databases. That's the very key point. Again, if you want to interact with NoSQL databases, I can make another video. But yeah, for if you are using any of these relational databases, you can obviously use them. And the biggest advantage is the clean implementation. And it's also a bigger problem of mapping your result set to the project. Right? This is one of the biggest problems. I have seen people writing so much of code. In fact, I wrote a lot of code almost 2 to 3 years back. I didn't know that this library existed. So this solves all these bigger problems and helps you to write very less code. I will showcase everything in the video, so don't worry about it. Fasten your seatbelts and let's switch to the IDE. So first thing first, so if you want to use the JDBI, so you can add this JDBI core library to your Maven dependency. Since we are working with Postgres, so I have also included Postgres dependency to the form.xml. So as simple as that. But okay, Amudan, where is your Postgres running? So if you notice here, if I type docker ps, I have two containers that are up and running. One is Postgres GUI that is running on my port 5432, and there is also my pgadmin, which is the front end for accessing the Postgres GUI. Okay, so it's running on my localhost 82. Right, so these are the two Docker containers that were I'm using it. Again, if you want to know how I set up this, there is a blog that I could attach to the description, which can basically help you to so if you notice, this is the blog. So I have referred this blog, and then it is very simple process. So you just need to install, you can just pull the Postgres image and then just run this particular command, and this should work fine for you. After that, you want to pull the another image, that is pgadmin image. And while running this pgadmin image, just make sure that you don't give this single quotes and use a real email. Okay, so something like that. So once you do that, you should be able to follow these simple steps and then have your pgadmin and the PostgreSQL up and running. So if you notice, this is my pgadmin, and I have already created a table called as user table, and it has two information, that is two columns, ID and name, and 0 Alice and 2 Amudan. And you could also run the command and make sure that everything is working fine, right? So the Postgres DB is up and running. pgadmin, the front end UI for the Postgres, is also up and running. Let's not waste a lot of time. Let's go to the code. So if you want to write the code, right, this is the conventional code that you could write without using JDBI. Okay, so basically define your JDBC URL and the password for your databases. Once you do that, you have to define what is the driver that you want to use. That's Postgres. Again, guys, if you don't import this PostgreSQL dependency, it might throw an error like the driver not found. Okay, so just do that. And you have to do driver manager.get connection. You pass the URL, username, and password. You make a connection to it. Okay, and then after these are all noise. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm basically trying to fetch the users, all the rows from this user table, and then I'm trying to print it. Right, that's what I'm actually trying to do. So here you need to create a statement, and then from the statement you need to execute this particular query, and then you store it in a result set. So result set is not really compatible to your Pojo. For example, um, there is a class called as user where it has ID and name. So this is exactly mapped to the database table that we saw, right? So I have used Lumbox, which means it has all the getters and setters, all argument constructor, no argument constructor, and everything like that, right? If you don't know what is this, um, you can check my Lombok video. I will attach all those videos in the description, right? So don't worry about it. Now, let's go to the JDBC test. And if you notice, there is no direct way to convert this result set into list of users, because this is what we want, right? We want um, all of these rows as a list of user. That's what we want. We want to map this to Pojo. Again, guys, mapping to Pojo is very, very important, right? If you don't map it to Pojo, it becomes very difficult for you to operate with. So that's the reason we always map it to Pojo. So now I'm iterating this one by one. So next will give me, if there is a next row that is available, the Boolean will be true, and I will go ahead and add it. So now what I'm doing, so I'm creating a new user, and then convert from the result set. I need to know whether the ID is an integer or string and everything, and then I need to pass to the constructor, right? So here it is just two values in the user table, but in a real world there will be hundreds of columns, right? So it becomes very difficult for you to manage this kind of stuff, right? So this way is not really manageable, okay? And then once it is done, I'm printing all of those values. So basically this should work fine. So there is no problem with working. But if you notice, all these things are nice, right? You don't have to really do all this stuff. So it printed out all these things because we have toString method implemented in the data. So it printed out for us. So all this looks good, but if you try to, this is just one case, okay? Let's say if you want to just fetch Alice, okay, then you need to basically create another wrapper method. You need to, so every time you fetch a value, you ended up creating wrapper methods, and then your code becomes very clumsy. Now, how we could do this with JDBA test? So everything remains the same. So the starting point is still the same, but after that, there is a class called as JDBA. You create an instance for it, and then you say JDBA dot create. That's it. So now you can pass the same things, right? So the JDBC URL and the username and the password. That's it. So you're doing the similar stuff, but this time with JDBA, you can do all the things you want. Right? So JDBI. Okay. Right? So there is two things here, with handle and use handle. So these methods are pretty important. So with handle, which means it will give you a handler. Okay. With that handle, you can do whatever you want. And this basically returns something. So with handle is basically accepts a functional argument. So you pass something to it and it returns something from it. Okay. So that's why so if you notice, this is handle callback. Basically takes in some R input and gives you X output, so something like that, right? So it's similar to your function interface. Again, guys, lambda expression functional interfaces are pretty much important. I have made an entire series on Java 8. If you haven't watched it, please do watch them, right? So if somebody is giving me a handle, what I do with it is I can execute query. I can make a select query. I can do a create query, and then I can pass the query. So what is a query? Just to save some time, I just copy this query from here. They're going to execute the same query. Okay. And once it is done, what I want to do. So there is something called as map to bean, okay? Because it is actually a bean, right? So bean is basically Pojo. So what you can do is user.class. That's it. You map it to this, and then what I want to do, I want to so with handle return as something, okay? So if you don't want this, you can use handle, which basically you can directly print it here. That's it. Okay, that's it. So now if you try to run the test, it does the same thing what this code does, but if you notice, these non-related stuffs are not here. So the test executed and the result is passed. And if you notice how clean the code is, okay, you could also use JDBA dot with handle, okay, and then if somebody is giving you a handle, you can also return it, okay. So handle dot create query, okay, and dot map to being user dot class, right? That's it. So now this should return you, or you can just say list, okay. Once you say this, it is going to return you list of users. That's it. Okay. Now using this, you could do anything you want. Users dot for each NSOC, right? So you can do all these things. Yeah, with use handle, you pass some input and it just prints it. It doesn't return you anything. But here you pass the handle, and then the query, it returns you the list of the output. So that is the list of users, right? So use handle if you don't want any output from it. Use with handle if you want some output from it, and it can be of any return type. So this is how easy it is. Hey, Amazon, this is all good, okay? But how could I use this in a framework? That's your real question, right? So uh, for that, so what you can actually do is you can create some classes like this, db facade, okay, and then this open connection method you can call from before suite if you are using testng, or before all if you are using from JUnit, okay. So these things you can call once you create a connection, and then this JDBA is here. Now what you can do is, if you want to do some operations, okay, so let's say execute. So execute is a method. If somebody is giving me, so I'm going to use JDBA. Okay. So this is a consumer. Again, guys, consumers, function are all functional interfaces. Okay, you could use Lambda expressions to provide implementations for them. Again, Java 8 is pretty much important, because if you want to avoid writing a lot of code, it is very important. Okay, so now you can simply say consumer.accept, and then you have the JDBA here. That's it. So what I'm doing is, normally, let's say, to put it in a simple words, let's say public void add, and people normally get data to the method, okay. And then once they get the data, what they do in the method, they will simply add these two things, okay. So they normally get the data, but the implementation is present in the method. But in this method, we are getting the implementation from the user, okay. I do not know how do you want to implement it, because the implementations are very huge here. It's infinite. There are infinite number of combinations that you could write to fetch a data from DB. It can be any data, right? So you cannot build all those wrappers. That's why we are asking the implementation from the user. Once they provide the implementation, we already have the JDBA instance with us, so we just pass it here. That's it. So instead of passing data, we pass the implementation. Now somebody can really use this, okay. So you can just create an object for this. Once you create an object, and you can create the connection. So this you can write it in your before suite or before all, and after that, wherever you want to use it, you can simply say db facade and execute, right? So it's a consumer, right? So if somebody is giving me a JDBA, I can say JDBA dot with handle or use handle. So here use handle, because I'm not going to get anything out of it. And if I pass a handle and I see handle dot create query, and whatever the query is that we have used before, right? So you can do any of these, okay, and go here and put it here. So once you execute this particular queries, just a second. So create query is still here, and then yeah, so map to being user dot class whatever, and then I don't want anything out of it, so I use a for each and print out all of them, right? That's it. So that's how you could write this, and then it should work, right? Right. So this way we are providing. So this implementation can be written by anyone. So the client will handle the implementation. You don't have to worry about it. You just provide a wrapper to perform that execution. That's it. The execution will only happen at this place. Okay. So before that, the execution will not happen. The execution will only happen here. Okay. Now, once you do this, you can also create one more method. So public void, and you can simply say uh, uh, get result or whatever. Okay, and then this time you want some output from it, so you can say if somebody, I will give you the JDBI, and the output is something that I don't know. You can define it by yourself. T is of generics here, so I need to tell T is the return type, and I'm going to use T as a generic type in this method, right? And here you can simply say return function, whatever this function that they are giving, I'm going to apply the JDB that I have. That's it. So the execution will happen here and they will get the output. So the same thing can be now uh, written now as db facade dot get result, and I do all these things again. Okay, and then simply say list. So you get the list back from it. So let's go here and let's say list of user. That's it. List JDBI dot map to bean. Okay, and list all looks good. I think there is some problem. So let's type it all. There should be some issue with the get result, and then JDBI dot with handle. Sorry, last time I used use handle. That's the reason it didn't work. So here handle, somebody is giving me a handle, I will simply say handle dot create query, and the same query I'll use here dot map to bean user dot class, and then I simply say list. That's it. Now you get the users out of it. So if you want any output, you could use this get result. If you don't want any output, you can use this execute method from the DB facade. That's it. So now you can say users dot for each, and then you can simply print out all of it, right? So that's how simple it is. Okay, you can customize this query. Let's say you want to operate something like this. You want to get name from user where ID equal to 0, something like this. And if you normally execute this, you get allies here, right? So you can also do this here. So how will you do that? We want some output from here, right? So db facade dot get result. Um, if somebody is giving me a JDBA, I do JDBA dot with handle. Handle, if somebody is giving me that, handle dot select. Okay, you can also use select here. So here you can run the same query, and then where ID equal to question mark. You can use question mark and then comma, the value is 0. So now what does is select star from ID equal to question mark. The question mark will be replaced by 0. That will be the query. Okay, once that is done, you can, so this will give you just a string. Okay, so it not give anything else. So you can map it to string dot class, because select name from user is a string. Once you do that, so you want to find the first one or find one, or else no, right? So you can do all these things. So this basically returns you string name. Okay, and you could simply output this name. That's it. Let's run the test. So this is how you can fetch different values just by using the same method. Uh, it says there is some problem, and so it says uh, select name from user where ID. So let's see the you're unable to create the statement. Has been closed. It says there is some problem here. Select name from user, okay, where ID equal to this. Maybe I don't use select here, directly use create query and then 0. Let's see whether this works. This is something related to syntax and it should have been fixed easily. Even if it doesn't work, don't worry about it. It says the connection has been closed. But why does the connection has been closed? Okay, so you notice this one here, it is closed. Yeah. So if you notice that I have commented out this line and then I just simply ran the same test and then it started to work, right? So it has something to do with the connection. So don't worry about it. We can handle that. So this is how you can fetch different values out of it. Okay. And if you go to the JDBI documentation, this is just one way of implementing this, but there is also another declarative way which you might also use. For example, if you have a data access layer, DAO means data access layer, you can also create an interface user DAO, and then you instead of passing the query, you could have them as an annotation. So you can use them in your code like this. So you can install the plugin and with the extension. So this is the user DAO or class. And if somebody is giving the DAO, you can call all these methods there, right? And then pass all the values. Let's say you want to get this value out of it. So this is how they are doing it. Okay. So yeah, you could also use this implementation if you want, right? Anything is fine. So I hope this video is useful. I will see you guys in another great video. Until then, bye.